I had a viewer ask, how do you calculate the yardage for a lampshade like this? So I might as well just make a video because I probably will get this question more than once. So let's talk about measuring this shade is the first thing that you're going to need to do. And my shade is 10 inches top to bottom. So I'm going to cut my strips 11 inches tall so that I have a ½ inch overlap at the top, ½ inch at the bottom, a little bit of wiggle room. My dimension at the widest point of my shade, which is around the bottom of the shade, is 64 inches. Each of my strips I'm going to cut to 2 inches. Just to make things simple, we'll cut all our strips 2 inches wide by 11 inches tall. And the width of your strips, you can cut them whatever dimension you want. If you have a small shade, then you probably want to have narrower strips. But this is a large shade, so I wanted my strips to be a little bit wider so that the proportions are balanced. Okay, so let's go to the table and talk about the dimensions. So let's pretend that this piece of paper is my fabric, and this is my selvage, and this is my selvage. So my selvage edges are here. And this piece of fabric is 45 inches wide, which is pretty standard for a quilter's cotton. If you're using a decorative fabric, a home decor fabric, then you're probably looking at 54 inches wide. But let's assume this is a quilter's cotton and it's 45 inches wide. And we buy 1 yard, which is going to be 36 inches this way. Okay? And we have our shade that is, we're going to cut each of our strips 11 inches. So in that case, that would take up 33 inches. So let's cut 11 inches here. This is 11 inches. And another one at 11 inches. And then this one will be left over at, what's that going to be? 11 so 14 inches. Yes. Okay, so then we have 45 inches and we're going to cut our strips at 2 inches a piece. Okay, so these are going to be 2 inches each. So that means 45 divided by 2 inches. That means I'm going to get 22 strips out of each of these 11-inch. So what's that? 22 times 3 is going to give me 67 strips of fabric. And if I have 67 strips of fabric, and I'm going to fold my strip. Let me find a strip of fabric. Okay. Okay, so here's one 2-inch strip of fabric. And like I said in the video, I folded mine over halfway. So that's how I did it in the video. So that's going to leave me an 1.5 inch, 1.25 inch strip of fabric. So let's say you overlap by this ½ inch. That's going to leave you 1 inch exposed on your lamp. So that means that, let's say 1 inch all the way around, and my shade is 64 inches. That means I'm going to need 64 strips of fabric, and I have enough in this 1 yard to get 67 strips of fabric. So I could get that whole large 64-inch lampshade out of 1 yard of fabric if you're careful with your cutting. That's going to be close. You're going to use up just about every strip of fabric. So I would maybe go ahead and get 1.5 yards, and then you'll have a little bit of waste. I almost forgot one very important part on the calculation of the yardage is you need some extra fabric. You need some extra 2-inch strips for this banding to finish off your shade. So in that case, I would go ahead and get an extra ½ yard of fabric. After the calculations that we just went over, just add a ½ yard of fabric to that in order to get this bit of fabric here.